Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast with Noelle Custis, where we ignite the spark to discover your favorite self. It is time to get real, ladies. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rise to Shine podcast with Noelle Custis. I'm your host, and today we have an incredible guest joining us, Dr. Patti Gonzalez. Dr. Patti is a retired chiropractor turned health concierge, and she's on a mission to help people return to their original health blueprint, what she calls our innate roots. And she believes that optimal health isn't just a destination, it's a return to the body's natural state of balance. Drawing inspiration from the powerful gut-brain connection, Dr. Patti has developed a holistic approach to wellness, tackling root cause issues like gut health, parasites, and the factors that disrupt our body's natural healing process. So it is all about her work and how she is uncovering what's beneath the surface and helping people reclaim their health from the inside out. So I'm really excited for this conversation because I'm going to be talking about what it really takes to heal, what it takes to thrive, and then just to really be able to break free from the things that might be silently holding us back, because I have heard her speak before and I learned so much. So Dr. Patti, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Noelle. It is an honor to be here.
So excited that you're here and we get to do this together. I know we're going to be at an event together soon, and I can't wait for that. I just feel like you have something so unique that you share, and I just love the way that you do share it because you are passionate about your work. And so I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while.
Well, awesome. I'm all yours. Ask away.
Awesome. All right. We're gonna get in there, and let's talk about your journey and just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then how I think it's interesting you've transitioned from chiropractic care to being a health concierge, and just explaining what that is for people that might be wondering, and what led you to make that shift, and how does your work look now. So if you could just start with all of that for us.
Absolutely. So I was in chiropractic for 16 years and realized I was not just doing chiropractic. There were a lot of things that I was working with my clients on as far as gut health and supplementation. It was holistic healing. And when my daughter was about 7, I realized it was time to spend more time at home. And so I decided to retire from chiropractic, but continue doing what I was doing through the holistic healing piece. So as I started to work with people, and it's interesting, when I first started coaching, I was working with moms who own businesses because that was me. I helped them through burnout. I helped them understand the juggle. And then they just kept bringing me, I've got this health issue, I've got this other thing going on. And I was like, okay, so it's not just the juggle, it's not just the business aspect. Their health was deeply impacted. So I realized the gut health piece of it was the key in order to be able to unlock the overwhelm that someone felt with the burnout. Because anxiety is very much linked to your gut health. Your stress levels are very much linked to that. There's just so much that's linked to your gut. So I started to dive a little bit deeper. And as I went through my own health journey, when I did retire, I ended up with my own just health struggle. So I found myself really burnt out. I had gained like 20 pounds. And what was meant to be just a 1 month, like, I'm going to take a break and do nothing, turned into 6. And I just started to see, I didn't realize how my health had really just taken a downward turn. Even though I was doing chiropractic, I was eating the things, my gut health was suffering. So I started to dive into a couple of things. I reached out to some great practitioners that I knew for some guidance. And parasite cleansing was one of the first things we did, and it actually made things way worse. And I was like, okay, that's not it. And then we tried to do metal detox, and that wasn't it. And I realized there's an order, years later, I realized there's an absolute order to how you have to detox the body. And so I had to go really slow. I couldn't work out, which was devastating because I was like, this is just part of my lifestyle. So I ended up being just able to walk. So I would go on 30 to 45-minute walks a day, lots of water, good nutrition, started some just basic detox supplementation to start to unburden my liver, to start to just support my gut instead of trying to pull everything out at once.
Fascinating.
So yeah. So as I started to really unpack, I was like, now it's time to revisit parasite cleansing. And I learned at that point, parasites actually feed on metals. So if you try to pull metals out first, it pisses off the parasites. And so you're like, oh, there's definitely an order to this.
That is fascinating to me. And I know that gosh, there's so many things to unpack here. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to dig in. I feel like the gut-brain connection has really been something that has come to the forefront, especially in my world, because I can so relate to you about women that are working women, entrepreneurs. I was a teacher for 25 years, and it's almost as if I wasn't really paying attention to that gut health issue because I just masked everything and being so busy, I didn't realize how bad it was until I took an early retirement from my job as a teacher and stepped into something else. I knew that there were concerns. I felt like when I would go to the doctor, there was never an answer. It was always, you have inflammation, but we can't really tell you where that inflammation is coming from. And there were all of those conversations around it. So I just continued to be busy, continued to be stressed. Anxiety definitely crept in, hence the reason why I left the profession to start something new, or I should say that's one layer of it. And could you talk to us just a little bit about that gut-brain connection and how does our gut impact just, not just our physical health, but also, I know you touched on it a little bit, but our mental and emotional well-being as well. Yeah. Would love for people to understand, how does our gut impact not just our physical health, but also our mental and emotional well-being?
Absolutely. Our gut actually is considered our second brain. And it's considered the second brain because about 60% of our serotonin is manufactured there. And serotonin is our happy hormone. So it plays a huge role in our mood. Parasites also can create a lot of anxiety. And it's weird. It's not the fact that we know that there's parasites there or we're aware of what's happening. It's that they feed on our neurotransmitters. So they're actually stealing a lot of the good hormones and the good neurotransmitters that actually feed our brain to allow us to have a very stable, even keel mood. So a lot of people don't realize how intricately linked our gut is to our brain and our overall health and well-being until they start to, like you, take a step back and be like, what's going on here? And for me, in my journey, I knew there was a connection. And like you, I was also just used to go. I was used to that go 100 miles an hour and just keep going through the to-do list until I had to take that stop and pause when I retired. And I was like, oh, wait, I thought I was doing okay, but I wasn't. And it's a lot of times when people can take a little bit of a pause that they start to notice, and or like you, they're getting these test results that are normal, but they know something's wrong. That's the innate part of it that I help to teach people. There is a deep knowing in you that there is something wrong. And there's also a knowing in you on how to fix it. And that's where I come alongside as the concierge is, okay, let's figure out what pieces you are missing and how to put it all back together.
Oh, that's so good. And just talking about that for women, because man, that is such a big, those two things that you just brought up of either just slowing down and taking a pause and then being able to recognize something, or like you said, and or going to the doctor knowing that something is not right, just something is off, but not getting the answers that you are in a way hoping for. Not that we want anything to be wrong with us, but I feel like when you go and you're just brushed to the side or they just can't figure it out, it can become a very frustrating wheel that you get on. So I would just be curious from you, what are some of the maybe some of the common signs that someone might have some gut health issues, or some of those underlining, I know you talk about those root causes that need to be addressed?
Absolutely. So some very typical signs are difficulty with sleeping, brain fog, sensitivity to foods, believe it or not, because if our gut is out of balance, it's not going to be able to digest or utilize the nutrients that we're actually giving it. And there's a lot of other things like hormone imbalance, thyroid. And so this is why when people are like, my labs are normal, but it's the detective work of going a little bit deeper to be able to figure out where the actual problem is. And the challenge is a lot of these symptoms are very common. Like I said, like brain fog, that could be a number of things, but it's also very much an underlying commonality for a lot of different things.
Yeah, definitely. Which leads me to even thinking about like some of the myths and misconceptions that gut health has for people. What do you wish that people understood about those myths and misconceptions?
I wish people really could see that there is a gut-brain connection and that a healthy gut truly will transform someone's overall health because it's the nourishment. I think oftentimes in our society, people are running so fast that they're like, let me just grab something and throw it in my mouth because I'm on to the next thing. Totally guilty of that. And I've also learned to have things that are going to nourish me in order to be able to grab and go quick, because we are what we eat. That old adage is very true. So if you're not fueling your body properly and with the things that it actually needs, it's going to create challenges.
Definitely. I know, because there's so much talk about that with these, it's like the modern day health challenges. We have such fast-paced lifestyles and there's processed food that's available to us. And even the quote unquote good food, there's hidden disruptors in there. There's the seed oils. We're just starting to hear more and more about this. And then on top of that, adding on the stress. And I feel like these just become such disruptors to our natural health and how things can go. And people, including myself, like you said, I'm talking to myself here, how I have just gotten caught up in the fast-paced health, or have felt like, oh, but wait a minute, I don't understand why this is happening. I feel like I'm eating pretty good. I'm getting some movement in. And then there's the hormones on top of it. There's just layers for sure. As we talk about that, jumping into more of what it is that you do with the detoxing and the healing, because again, you emphasize this holistic approach and restoring our health. What are some of the healing practices that people can do, and what is it that you do to really help them? I know parasites is a big one for you. You also, like you said, there's a process to this. You don't just jump into, let's go on a parasite cleanse. It's like, those are the things that freak me out. And then people don't do them when they should be doing something, but then we get so overwhelmed with all the information out there that they don't do anything. So I would love to know what your approach is with that healing today.
Absolutely. I always start with my concierge clients with a very long questionnaire, because that gives me a 13-page report and a variety of different areas that will help me understand where the actual root cause is. Parasites is just one of those. One of the things that I'm seeing very frequently now with clients is mold is showing up. And mold can live in your system for a really long time and just be underneath the surface creating problems. But I also, one of the biggest things that I want to look at is, how are your cells functioning? I look at it from a cellular perspective, because every single organ is made up of cells. Your digestive tract is made up of cells, and all of your cells are turning over. So if you're not turning over cells in such a way that they're actually becoming healthier, you're getting sicker. So mitochondria, anybody remember that from middle school science? Mitochondria are the little powerhouse in every single one of your cells. So if we go back to, from a cellular perspective, if those are functioning well, or if they're not, it's going to wreak a lot of havoc in the system.
Yeah, gosh. And going into the mold, what you just said about the mold, I'm fascinated by that because I don't even know you think it would just be an obvious question, but to get mold or to get those parasites, does everybody, I guess this is a two-part question. So first of all, how would we even get mold into our systems? And then second of all, with the parasites, does everyone have parasites? And then how do we get those? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, so the first question on mold is usually something that is in our environment. So I grew up in a house that I didn't know had mold in it. There was a musty smell, but we didn't really okay, that room flooded and we fixed it, we thought. But mold comes in through airways and then it just can settle in the system. Not everybody has mold, but a lot of people have had contact with mold. And think about it, it's also regional. There's different regions of the country that get more moisture. And I thought, growing up in San Diego, I'm oh, it's warm there too. But there was still moisture. It rains pretty much everywhere. I live in the desert now, it still rains here. Not as often, but it rains. So how that moisture is actually alleviated, is there mold or is there not? And then to answer the question on parasites, in fact, we all do have parasites. It's actually normal to have parasites. They're actually part of what's called our microbiome. They make up just what's populated in our gut. The problem is when we get too many and or we don't cleanse ourselves from them. So where do they come from? It's a great question. I have a quiz that I actually put together so people can be where do they come from and do I have them? But some of the questions on there are, have you ever swam in a lake, river, or stream? Other common places is sushi. I still do eat sushi, I will tell you, but I also take an anti-parasitic with it so that I can kill off anything I've added in. It also is on our fruits and vegetables. So if you're not cleaning your fruits and vegetables, it's in water supply. So parasites are everywhere. It's also our pets. Think about if you have dogs or cats, you deworm them on a regular basis. But if you're not deworming yourself, then you're just continuing to nourish them.
I know. And I think that's what, as you hear about it, I know when I mention this to people, it totally freaks them out. They're like, oh my gosh. And what is something that you can assure people of I would imagine the process, there's probably going to be gross things that you're going to see, like when you go to the restroom. I'm assuming. Maybe you can debunk me there. I don't know. For me, I go, okay, yes, that may be the case, but wouldn't you rather them be cleaned out? I would love for you to just tell us. We can get icky and dirty. We're all women here. We all have lived our lives and know there's things out there that aren't pretty. But what is the process? And how often is that something that you should be doing?
Okay, I'm going to answer your second question first. How often? I now, at the point that I'm at, I parasite cleanse about twice a year. When I first started, though, I did it 4-5 times. And the very first cleanse that I did, it was actually a 4-month protocol. And 3 months of that were actually parasites. So it was wild. And I think that really leads me into the next question of, oh my gosh, that was inside me, pretty scary. And I'll tell you, the very first parasite I passed was way back in the beginning of my healing journey. I actually wasn't doing a parasite cleanse at the time. I had previously done one a couple months before, but nothing really happened that I knew of. And I went to the bathroom and I don't know how many people turn around and look, but I do. And I was like, what the heck was that? It was literally an 18-inch thing that looked like a worm. And I'm like, whoa, I literally just was stunned for a while. And most people probably wouldn't do this, but I took a picture because I'm a doctor slash scientist, so I'm like, I've got to have documentation. But when I was like, okay, so that was pretty wild. But here's what I tell people, you don't have to look. The parasite cleanse that I've created is through a company that actually does 3, 5, or 7-day cleanses, but I've actually extended it to a 30-day protocol because parasites actually lay eggs, they go dormant, then they're active. So that 30 days allows us to get them at each point of that cycle. And it's very simple. It's supplementation. So I've just now started adding in, there's some nutrition recommendations that go with it. You don't necessarily have to follow anything specific or regimented. When people think about it, they're like, is this going to be hard? No, all you have to do is take supplements when you wake up, at breakfast, dinner, and bedtime. That's it. And you don't have to look. I have many people who don't.
I bet. Now, question, this is again, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just so fascinated by it. So by the time you are releasing them, are you actually in the cleanse, are they dying from the inside? So by the time they come out, they're not like alive swimming in there, correct?
Yes. Yes, this is a very common question.
I figured our audience would be very curious, as it was I when I heard about this.
There are no swimmers, I promise. They do die inside, and part of the protocol is actually killing them on the inside. And then they're just wrapped in your stool. So oftentimes people don't even see remnants of them because they are like within the stool.
I'm sure that'll be a relief to some for
Yes.
sure. Because even going back to sushi, this became a dinner topic as we were having sushi the other night, and I laughed because I was like, maybe we shouldn't be talking about this. But one of the things that came up was that is the reason, and I never knew this back in the day up until recently, that is the reason why they give you also the ginger, because they say that you should be eating that along with your sushi because that helps with making sure you're not getting all of these parasites, which, you know, I think about it and I go, out of our dinner table, there's only one family member that actually eats that and the rest of us don't. So then I was going, oh my gosh. So I like to know that there's also, because I don't really I love ginger, but eating it raw that way it's tough for me. It's interesting how people have different reactions to it, but for me it's really hot and spicy. And so I love knowing that there's actually a supplement that you can take that to do that, to be able to do that, because I do love sushi and I'm like, oh, do I have to give that up completely? So love knowing that.
Yeah, I still go eat sushi a couple times a month.
Okay. It is absolutely fascinating to me for sure. And I just, you just don't realize, I'm 51 and I've never done a parasite cleanse ever. And I think about that and I go, how many of us are not doing that, maybe not even educated around that. I was so fascinated the first time I heard you speak. I had briefly heard about it a little bit here and there, but hadn't really been educated on any of that. It definitely is a protocol that I think would be worth everyone's while to check that out, especially because it's not the misconception that it's just from raw fish. You can get this from so many other factors, having your pets and all of the things. So that I think is interesting as well. One of the things I would love to ask you for someone who lives this lifestyle, because I like to say it's a lifestyle, it becomes your lifestyle. What are some of your personal daily health practices that keep you feeling good?
First and foremost, I have learned to prioritize sleep. That was not something I did in practice. I survived on 6 hours, and now it's 7 to 8. And your sleep is so vitally important because it actually is when your body does its repair work. So if you want to live a really long, healthy life, prioritize sleep, lots of water, good, healthy nutrients. And for me, and I think a lot of people out there, but I have actually gone grain-free and dairy-free. I've recently, with all the healing I've done in my gut, I'm now able to eat very fresh homemade sourdough, which I am grateful for because I have definitely missed like traditional bread. But I also supplement. So I actually go through phases. So I actually just finished about a week ago the parasite cleanse. And I will still stay on some supplements, but there are times where I'm like, you know what? I get what was called supplement fatigue, where you're like, I just don't want to take any more supplements right now. And I take a variety of different supplements depending on the year, depending on what's going on in my health, or depending on some of the goals that I have for longevity.
Oh, I love that. And I just so appreciate your transparency in that because, again, I feel like this can be a very overwhelming space for people in general, especially women that are busy and that are trying to keep it all together. And just piggybacking on that, for anyone who's listening that just is feeling that overwhelmed, like, I don't even know where to start to improve my health. Like, what would be one piece of advice that you could give them today of where to even begin that journey?
I always start people with what I call the addition rule. And the addition rule is for either exercise or for nutrition or for whatever you want to add in. So instead of saying, oh my gosh, I have to overhaul my entire nutrition, I've got to eat clean. No, you just have to start adding one healthy thing to each meal. So it's just a micro shift that needs to start to happen. Let's say it's an exercise. Someone wants to work out 6 days a week. That's almost impossible to do, like right out the gates. Okay, add a walk. Add a 20-minute walk every day. So I call it the addition rule because I think a lot of people in society don't want to be told not to do something. Like, in order to change your health, don't do this or this. How about instead, we add in something that we know is going to actually help us toward our long-term goal so that we can start to build the wins. And as we build the wins, it becomes easier.
So love that. Gosh, I know that we could dive even further, but I definitely want to make sure that people know where to find you. I just feel like it's such a beautiful conversation because, first of all, you're sharing all of your wisdom and shedding light on some of these issues that aren't necessarily talked about or people just aren't educated on. And gut health is starting to become the buzz. People are starting to realize, oh, there's a connection to this whole gut and brain health. And I just feel like what you have to offer is just this very well-rounded picture. And I love that way of explaining it, that you're just adding one instead of feeling like you have to do it all and you have to do it all today, because I think that also creates a burnout, and people, if they fail at something, then they just go, oh, forget it, I can't do this. So I feel like it definitely brings the mindset of more success for sure. And I love too that for me, one of my biggest takeaways today was just knowing that it's not just the quick fixes. It really is about getting to the root cause and allowing our bodies to do what they're designed to do. I love that you reminded us of that. What I would love as well for those listening, I guarantee that something has resonated with every person listening today. I would love for you to just let us know where our listeners can connect with you and learn more about the work that you do.
Absolutely. So 2 places. You can go to my website, which is innateroots.com, or you can find me on social, Dr. Patti Gonzalez, and that's Patti with an I, Gonzalez ends in a Z. So it's been really fun to start to share more and more on socials just about just little snippets. Hey, did you know this? Did you know that? Because my heart really is to help people, like you said, with those little things that they can start to implement. You asked a lot of really great questions today, and I think that it's the questions on a lot of people's mind. I'm always open to answer questions, so find me in my DMs and I'm happy to connect.
Absolutely, and I can assure you of that. Thank you again so much for being here, Dr. Patti, and we'll make sure that we have all of her information in the show notes so you can be in touch with her. And you're also out of Arizona. You have a practice in Arizona, correct?
I do. So I own a holistic body sculpting studio separately from my coaching concierge service. It's called Tight Club, and we use cryostimulation, fascial compression, and lymphatic drainage to really tighten and tone the body.
Yes, love it. So if you're in her area, you definitely can even see her in person. Thank you so much again, and thank you, listeners, for joining us today. I just want to say until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and take care of yourself from the inside out. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends. Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends.